What if I told you I have spent over $1 million on a Minecraft server? You'd probably laugh at me, or maybe think I have a few screws loose up here. But this is actually the case, and this video is devoted to the crazy story of exactly how this happened. This is TubNet, the full story. This is my first time doing a video in this style, so if you do enjoy it, please do leave a like and subscribe. It generally would mean a lot to me because this story has encapsulated so much of my life. So it actually started years ago, back in 2015, when I was invited by a group of my school friends to join a private Minecraft server. At the time, I had no idea that you could even have a private Minecraft server with friends. I thought the only Minecraft servers that existed were these big Goliath networks. At the time, I think it was GotPvP, hypixel, The Hive, these massive networks. I thought that's all there was. I thought if you wanted to play with your friends, it was you sat around their house with an Xbox controller. This was eye-opening for me. And as soon as I saw that one of my mates from school had their own server, I was infatuated by it. I was like, I need this. So I spent ages researching and I found out you have to buy them. 14-year-old me didn't have any money. So where did I go to? My parents. When I finally got my own server, I was over the moon and it just had me and some friends on. But I noticed after a while, we would just stop playing. Like any normal SMP out there, people just lose interest. This is when I realized, what if I just gave the IP address of my server out to anyone? And that's what I did. I put out my IP address and then just these random people started joining. This is when I decided that I wanted to pivot to make my own public Minecraft server. At the time I started to do this was when Minecraft pay-to-win servers were at their peak. My mission when I wanted to make my first ever public server was I wanted it to be free for anyone to enjoy. But when these server owners, they came up to me and they spoke about these massive amounts of money they made from Minecraft, I fell for it and decided to make a pay-to-win server, just like everyone else. But things were not all well and good. The server released and it was chugging along at its own pace, I think it's safe to say. But the person that at the time I built the server with ended up deleting the server and stealing all of the money. It was just very demotivating to have everything you worked on just like deleted like that. And I kind of gave up. I actually just quit making Minecraft servers for 3 years. You may be wondering like, what happened? You clearly got back into it. You clearly made one. Well, that is where I started streaming on Twitch and things got a little bit crazy from there. After speaking to some more people in the server space, I decided to give it another chance. This time was going to be very different though. I had money, I had resources, I could literally make the server I dreamed of. TubNet was originally going to be an RPG-inspired Minecraft server to the likes of Windcraft, which was a massive server I enjoyed playing at the time. But as development continued and slowed, I kind of lost motivation. I even got it to the point where it was playable. And then I decided to talk to some other people in the space who had more experience handling large-scale servers, and what they told me changed the direction of TubNet for good. So we had our new direction. TubNet was now en route to become a minigame server, very similar to the likes of hypixel, Cubecraft, and Hive, all of the predecessors before us. Fast forward about 18 months, TubNet has grown to a size of 40 people. This also came with very real, like, new scares to me. For example, we now had a burn rate, which meant we lost money every single month. It was getting more and more stressful for me. But this is also around the time we made the most of our progress. For the first time ever, we had everyone fly out to our in-person office in Florida and work on the server together. And we made more progress in that week probably than we had in the last 3 months of development. So the games were underway, the developers were hard at work, each one had a singular game to work on, and this new direction we were going was looking really, really promising. Everyone on the team was invested, excited. Things were starting to get very real and very scary though. We were starting to have to work on our contracts. And for those of you that don't know, when you make a network, you have to go to a service provider. This service provider is someone who gives you the physical like boxes, computers that are used to run your server. And this was no cheap expense. The first contract we signed was with a hosting company for 152 servers, which cost us roughly around £30,000 a month. on top of all of the wages of the 40 people that now worked at TubNet. And we were locked into that contract for 12 months. The next of these really scary contracts is Cloudflare. They offer something called DDoS protection, which stops malicious attacks from getting to your servers and breaking them. Our Cloudflare contract ended up costing us around $20,000 a month. So we had signed these contracts. We now had extortionate monthly outgoings, which means we had a very tight timeline to get our server launched. We gave ourselves 4 months to get TubNet out and released to the public. And as those 4 months started, we started our advertising plan, which meant we then started making our trailers that you might have seen on the TubNet YouTube channel. Now, fast forward about 2 months from launch. We were about, at this point, over $300,000 into the hole on the entire project. And this is where things start to take maybe a little bit of a turn for the worse. All of the games were done, but we were still lacking some infrastructure components that needed more work to be done. The fact of the matter is that we had now announced our launch date in front of a live audience at TwitchCon Amsterdam. So the pressure in the office and on the team had literally never been higher. But we were confident in 2 months, as long as there were no hiccups, we would get it all ready to go. We ended up getting hit with one of the biggest DDoS attacks I have literally ever seen. I had like no idea what was going on. I was sat in my office in my chair alone and just suddenly seeing almost every senior member of the team walk past one after the other outside my office window. And I was like, wait, because we had this big group working area where everyone would sit and we'd collaborate, we'd talk, throw ideas around, and that's where everyone was for like this initial launch. But then one after the other, they just all walked past my office door, and in the back of my mind, I'm like, what's going on? This isn't normal. Why would they leave their desks at probably the most important point of the project so far? And I had this big growing sinking feeling. It was just like demotivating. I just felt, before I even knew what had happened, like I just felt this feeling of growing dread. I remember just leaving my office door and walking towards the meeting room, and I get in there and like, I've never seen so many stressed people pulling out their hair at once. It was really insane. Everyone being really confused at what's going on. And then we find out that it had crashed. Like, knowing how much money was coming out of pocket for then things that should have really been completely fine, like it shouldn't have batted an eye, then for everything to break that was a lot to take. That was not the greatest day, I would say. It peaked at 25 million packets a second. I can't remember the total amount of packets off the top of my head, but it was in the billions, actually in the billions. I remember being sat in that room and I have my lead infrastructure guy and he has graphs of traffic on his monitor, and then suddenly the graph just spikes. Like literally it spikes so high, the actual software to track the graph, it breaks. You might be thinking, Toby, didn't you pay Cloudflare $20,000 a month to protect you from this kind of thing? Yeah, we really did. And they only ended up stopping somewhere in the range of 0.1% was mitigated. And that's not even my words. That's actually their words. I actually got an email from Cloudflare about the attack. Hi there, it was a pleasure speaking with you today. You experienced 3 spikes in traffic which impacted your origin, the origin being our Minecraft server, and eventually had to be turned off. Our auto DDoS mitigation did kick in, but it wasn't enough to stop the origin from being affected. The person trying to connect to the server goes to Cloudflare first and then to our own servers. What they're saying there is that they had to turn off their servers and just let the traffic go straight through to ours. What that resulted in is something called nulling, which is where your hosting provider has to turn off your servers and you're not able to turn them back on. So they woke up and they had to shut off our servers for 2.5 days. They left them offline. My original thoughts from past experience, my Minecraft drama brain was like, oh my God, someone's gone rogue or something like that. Or like someone's like screwed me over from past experiences and stuff. That's like the normal experience. But that walk, I had all these possibilities going in my head. And then when I enter the room, it's like pin drop silent. It's pin drop silent, it's pacing, and it's keyboards. Like, it's It's eerie. It's like unsettling almost. I remember just like standing in front of, like in the middle of the area. I was like, this is my time. Motivational speech. I tried my best. It was a weak speech. Okay, it was a really weak speech. I said something broadly like, this isn't the outcome we wanted, but my faith in the project hasn't been knocked. I still think the work we've done and the work you have done is amazing, and I hope we get to share it with everyone very soon. Things were going really, really well. And it looked like for the first time in history, we're gonna be able to release TubNet to the public and have it work. So the team was ecstatic, and so was I. The launch TubNet event was just closing up now, and without further ado, it was time for the keynote to start, and then we were off to the races. So we had released, we're off to the races. Everything appeared to be going fine, like completely fine. Nothing was gonna go wrong, right? You might be thinking after these massive attacks subsided, we had got it all behind us and it wasn't going to hurt the server anymore, but no. Issue after issue kept arising. Notably, we had to spend so much more time completely rebuilding our back-end infrastructure to be able to handle this kind of load that we neglected other parts of the server that needed work on. Thanks to these attacks and us having to come up with solutions and hot fixes on the fly to be able to keep the server online, we weren't able to keep working on these features. So things after things started to fall short. Notably, when we did our release, there were certain very core features that weren't working. Like we had many issues with matchmaking, which is how people actually get into the mini games. We had issues with friends lists and stuff like that, which if we had had that extra time, I'm confident we could have nailed out because there were tiny bugs. But when you're running a live operation service, you can't just afford to push changes straight away. You have to do them in batches and slowly in order not to make the thing worse. And things have to be adequately tested to make sure nothing's wrong. Another issue that popped up is because we missed our original opportunity for launch, we had much lower player counts than we did earlier in the year. And this is due to so many things like the summer holidays, the timing of the trailers, missing our original announced launch date. This means we had a bunch of excess servers that we were paying for that we no longer needed. And we had to figure out how to exit the contract with our hosting provider in order to scale down our machine counts. And we only just managed to do that recently. So over the last months the server's been online, we've been paying extortionate amounts for servers that we didn't end up needing. Another issue that kept coming back to bite us, Cloudflare were not letting us out of our deal with them. Luckily, after some convincing and some talking, we both mutually came to the conclusion that the deal just wasn't right for us, and we managed to move to a much better DDoS protection for Minecraft. But the issues still didn't stop there. TubNet was still burning through our cash reserves, and we then dabbled into doing brand partnerships, which have literally been a lifesaver, keeping the server online, keeping everyone working at TubNet. But as we managed to get a hold on these issues and keep the server stable, we actually managed to push regular updates to the games for a little while before we shifted our process to making cool content and streamed events. And thankfully, I think we're still at that place now where we've got a hold of all these issues and we can still keep building on what we have. So despite all the problems, everything that happened, there was still a surprising amount of optimism in the team. Spirit, I still felt that same passion, that same drive that I had in everyone else that was there. And on my last trip to the office, we sat down in a room together and we wrote out a new plan, something completely different. Something that still stays true to our vision of it being accessible and free for anyone. We strayed more away from your traditional mini games, unless they were really custom new ideas we had. We tilted our focus more towards making events and creating good content, like something someone could play and enjoy, something chat and viewers could be massively invested in. So with this new path and direction set, catering more to events while still upkeeping the server, I'm really excited for the future. How do you feel about the journey of TubNet? I think the journey's been really, really good for me. I feel like I've learned a lot. I've met a lot of really awesome people. The journey is something that I think I've done a lot of growing throughout, and I think it's been awesome. Are you excited for the future? I'm really excited for the future. I think there is so many cool things in the works there's still so much to happen. There's still so much growing to do, and I think that's really exciting. Do you have any regret for TubNet? No, I absolutely don't regret it at all. I think that this is something that I've always wanted to do for like my entire life, and it is a dream of mine, honestly, so I would literally never regret it. So are you happy with where it is? I'd say I'm not happy with where it is right now, but that's not because I'm upset with the project or I have any like resentment against the project. I'd just say it's still got so much further to go, and I just find that exciting. So I'm not happy with where it is right now.